Alrighty folks, welcome back to another video from EH Computers Tips and Reviews. So, want to make sure everybody heads over, hit the subscribe, number one. First thing, stop this video, go over, subscribe to the channel right now. After that, you'll get the little bell icon. You can choose to get updates when I post. Every week there's a new video or not. But it's very important. Stop now, head on over, hit the subscribe. Head on over, check out all the other videos I've got. Not just the newest one, there's a whole bunch. I got over 160, 180 plus videos already out there. So this one's going to be kind of a short one I wanted to go over because it is the year of the rabbit hole. It is kind of an issue of a rabbit hole subject. It really isn't that big of an issue because most people, when they go out, they assume they know what they want and they go get what they think they need. Today's age, a lot of things have kind of spun up and changed and haven't changed and want to go back to some of these things and go over some of these things because I don't hear a lot of people talking about them. And this is a silly kind of subject, but it is kind of an important subject for businesses, home users, everybody. Is your printer. What kind of printer you have? How does it communicate? Where does it communicate? And there's other things also with those permissions and security on those printers that I know a lot of people are not configuring. So, wanted to just go through and do a little quick video in the rabbit hole year on printers and go through some of the basic differences. Of course, you used to have parallel printers. Don't really think they're made anymore. You could probably find them somewhere. Of course, you had the old dot matrix printers. They're still used for some companies and some businesses and some things. Some service companies use them. From my understanding, as of 2013, 2014, they're still out there. You had your USB printers. You have your network printers. Physical network cable printers. You have things like Bluetooth communication, wireless communication. And then you got probably the biggest one out there right now is the Wi-Fi. And with that, you have printer hubs and other things so you can hook up multiple printers to one physical device. They've been out for a long time. And that would get around some of these other interfaces. And probably the basic thing you would want to know is how many locations or how many things are going to print to that printer. So this is where the wireless and the network comes in play for the multiple computers, phones, what other physical devices can communicate to that imprint. So this is important for you all with the new modern tech. The cell phones, and you want to print. You print wirelessly. Of course, you can also have an older style printer with a printer hub. The printer hub will do all of the forwarding and trafficking to those printers. The printer does not necessarily have to have all those features. New printers that have all those features where they connect to the network usually have an IP, and you can use that IP to connect to it. Like firewall switches, routers, have videos, screen captures, all of that to show you how that's done. You need to change those default security passwords. Same as a router, same as everything else, same as anything else that connects to that network. You want to change all your default passwords. I know a lot of people aren't doing that. They're not setting that security. Someone gets on your network, they can take over your printer, lock you out. You spent $300 on a printer, you can't get in it, you can't configure it. Someone's gone in there, changed the settings, changed the passwords, locked you out. There goes your $300 out the window because you're going to go buy another one because you can't use it, you can't do anything with it, you can't reset it. So making sure you follow that best practice and that procedure on printers that are networked are very important. And then, of course, you got your USB and your other kind of physical connections, I would say. You have Bluetooth that is not considered wireless because Bluetooth, you have to be in range of it. Wireless has a bigger range. You can be on the other side of walls or Bluetooth gets blocked and stuff like that. So there's other kind of wireless tech out there that I don't consider as wireless. It's wireless, but it's not Wi-Fi. So this is where I consider that wormhole, rabbit hole effect that starts to come in play. Because you can actually use all 3 or 4 of those technologies on one printer. You can have a computer physically right here that is wired directly to a printer. I can have a cell phone over on the other side of the property on Wi-Fi that's connected to the Wi-Fi due to the mesh network that's connected to that printer, print. I can actually have my personal laptop over on the other side of the building, print through Wi-Fi to that printer. I can actually have a wired computer that's plugged into the network, print to that printer. Can have a phone physically here with me that's connected Bluetooth, print to that printer. So knowing that opens that rabbit hole. Because now it's not everybody's going to just use Wi-Fi. It's not everybody's going to be on the network wired. It's not going to be maybe both of those, wireless and wired. It could be a whole combination of different things. So that was kind of the whole thing of the rabbit hole. Then you get into actual printer. Black and white, color. Color opens up a whole nother factor. How many colors? How many cartridges? Laser. Heat print. Ink print. There's a lot of different print techs out there. Knowing how all of these prints are done and what kind of printer. Now, it might not only be a 11 by 8 sheet of paper printer. This could actually be like a blueprint printer that's, 30 by 40 sheets or whatever printer. This could be illegal. It could be any kind of paper size printer. Maybe you have a blueprint printer and a standard, 8.5 by 11 printer. Separate printers, maybe a joint printer. There's a lot of technology out there where you might end up having 2 or 3 printers. Knowing that you can network them, wire them, whatever you need to, so you don't have to email someone a document so they can print it to a certain printer, that everybody in the building or anybody in your business can use that same printer. Knowing that, and knowing that maybe you don't want certain people to use that big printer because the sheets are $2 each or $5 each, and you don't want every person that wants to print a legal document that wants it bigger printing it out on a blueprint document. You need to know how to not give them their rights or how to restrict them from printing on that. That can actually be done in a lot of printing settings. That can be done in the printer itself. Certain permissions, depending on what kind of printer you buy. So that's where this rabbit hole came up with in printers. It should be fairly short video. you're going to have to do your research. You're going to have to do your homework, because whatever I tell you today is not going to be the same tomorrow. Technology's moving. New products come out all the time. Products get discontinued. So if I told you to go out and buy Canon blah 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 model, that model might not be around next week. So this is where you got to do your research. You got to do your homework. You got to know what you want and what you're going to need. And it's a very hard subject to grasp and understand once you start looking. Because a lot of companies will tell you, oh, you know what? Just buy this big, simple, big, giant printer. It'll do everything you want and this and that, and not understand the full cost of having that giant printer. Because if you're in a business and you need a lot of things printed and you have a lot of things sent to you that you print, knowing the difference between, do you print in black and white or do you print in full color or partial color? These are all printer configurations within that printer. Printed in draft, where it's a lighter ink usage, where it prints clear but you can still read it. There's a lot of settings in these printers where you can set them up to do certain things. You can have more than one printer, I mentioned that. One that prints draft paperwork, one that prints finalized paperwork with color and all of that type of stuff. You can use one printer with multiple settings. When you go to print, draft, full color. You pick what printer setting you want, like almost choosing what printer you want, and it'll come out the same printer. If you need holes punched, if you need all of that, you can actually set up different printers with different print permissions to do the jobs, instead of going in there and changing the job functions every time you need to print. Knowing all of those features that you're going to need in a printer is kind of a interesting concept, because you can rent the big business grade printers that punch holes, that will staple, that will collate, that will print multiple copies and do all kinds of stuff you want it to do. Some of these smaller printers nowadays will do a lot of those features, or almost all those features. So knowing, okay, I can go out and get a printer here for $300, or I can go out and get a printer for $5,000. Well, this $5,000 printer will auto staple where the $300 won't staple. Might not be that big of a deal, but when you dig a little deeper, let's go a little deeper on that staple feature. What kind of staples does it take? I can go to the hardware store, I can go to, the stores and buy a box of staples, million staples in it for $4.99. I can go online, get it for $4.99. Or I have to buy these special staples that go into the $5,000 printer that cost me $10 for 100. These are some of those little variables that are there. Yeah, then you need a stapler for people. Maybe you don't have staplers. Maybe you have those electric staplers and they're all breaking down and you need to replace them. Where you think, oh, I can use this unit where it auto staple, or it has a stapler on the side of it. It has some of those features. Maybe it needs to do like binding or the banding type holes, so you can put it in those little bandings and stuff. There's a lot of features out there where maybe you are punching it all by a manual punch and all these type of things, where these things will help you out. So I wanted to go through some of those aspects, some of those variables, because if you're a home user, especially when everybody started working at home and everybody's now going back to the work site, maybe you are one of these people still working at home and don't realize, I can go out and buy a printer and do this and do that will save me time and help me out. Or you're doing your own home business and you don't know about these things because you're not a technology person. That's why there's channels out there to help you know these things. I hope this helps out and gets people out to do their research and do their homework on printers before they just go out and buy one. Because one of the big problems that you would have is, kind of dating myself, but in the old days you used to get the newspaper and the ads would come in. Now they come in your emails and other places where they advertise, hey, come on in and get this printer for $20. Come on and get this for $19.99. It's on special. To look at what the features actually are. You might go get that printer and it's a black and white printer. Does that printer have a scanner? Can that print on both sides of the paper? How many pages a minute can it print? There's a lot of features involved in a printer that might help you out. And if you're a home business and something, you go out and buy that $20 printer and it prints 29 pages a minute, and there's a $49 printer that can print 100 pages a minute, and it's good quality and it's everything else, it might be a benefit to you depending on how much you print to get the faster printer. And the costs nowadays are so low on some of these things that it's kind of a weird thing, but it's kind of one of those things you got to do your homework and do your research. See a lot of things about people going online buying things and finding things really cheap, and they talk about, and everybody warns you about SATA drives right now, USB drives. They're marketing these 2 terabyte drives for $20, and they tell you, be careful. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. This is another factor that comes involved. I can go out and get a printer for $14.99. Woohoo, yeah. Run out and you buy that. You need to figure out your ink cartridge cost. You need to figure out how fast that prints. Is it color? Is it black and white? Is it scanner? Is it USB? Is it network? Is it Wi-Fi? Which Wi-Fi? B, G, N, 6, 7, whatever all this stuff is, you need to figure this out. Knowing what you might want to, how you want to connect to it, how you might want to connect to it. Knowing all of these factors. So that's the rabbit hole, and I hope that explains a lot to a lot of people, and you can do your research and know what to look at. Because, again, it's not that much. It's just a $20 printer. It's just whatever. But if you get it and it doesn't have Wi-Fi on it, or it's Wi-Fi B, or some other Wi-Fi that's not compatible with your Wi-Fi and all of that, because it's not always all 100% backwards compatibility. So I wanted to go through and tell you these things and make sure people are aware. It has a physical IP and a login if your network. In there, make sure you change that default password on that printer. It can be the same as your admin network password or whatever password that you have to remember, but you don't want to leave it open so anybody that puts in that IP address can get right in. So that's the biggest takeaway from this video, is to express that point, because I hear nobody talking about that at all. So I wanted to touch base on that and go through that and explain that. And I've gone on long enough. I want to thank everybody for watching. Head on over to Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. Hit the subscribe. Thank you so much.